first thing you need to do is be safe. Disconnect the appliance or turn off the breaker to avoid electric shock. Hello guys, welcome to DIY Repair Now. Today we're going to be working on a Samsung dryer. And the problem that we have with this dryer is that it's not heating. The model number, it's on the display. So any parts that you're going to go ahead and replace on this dryer, go by the model number. We're going to start by removing the top panel, which is only held by 2 screws, and the back there are 2 Phillips screws. And then you're going to go ahead and pop this from top panel. Sometimes you have to wiggle it, and sometimes you have to basically kind of hit this bottom part to be able to get it loose, because it has 6 tabs that are holding it in place. So this is what I do. I tap in there with my hand and they are coming loose. It's like between 4 and 6 tabs they are holding it in place, and doesn't come easy. Disconnect these 2 harnesses to remove this front top panel. Remember, the very top panel, it only holds by 2 screws, and the back there are Phillips screws. And I didn't got that in the video, so I'm sorry about that, but you can see it at the end of the video when I put them back on. Now I'm removing these screws that holds this front panel, then remove the 2 screws that goes by the lamp filter. And after you remove all the screws that are holding this front panel, is 2 tabs that holds the panel in place. So just grab like a screwdriver, flathead, and go ahead and push those in, and it will come loose. You just have to push those in. Try not to push them all the way in, because those helps to hold it in place while you remove the screws. Now over here you have to be very careful. You have to hold this switch with one hand and remove the harness with the other one, because if that little piece right there that is holding the switch flies away, you're going to end up replacing the whole switch. Now you're going to disconnect this piece, which is the humidity sensor harness, and then you're going to go ahead and start removing all these screws that holds this part of the drum. This is the front panel that holds the drum in place, which is part of the housing. And then you're going to remove that metal piece on the top as well. Just follow the video. Sorry, my camera moves, and then it's some areas that I don't got them in the video the way I wanted. Now push those harness in, and then the other side you will see some clips that holds the wiring in place. Like I said, my camera moves and I didn't got those pieces, but you'll see it when you remove that metal bracket panel. Just set that to the side, then remove the wire. See those clips? Just go ahead and detach them from the detach the wire from those clips, and keep removing the screws that holds this panel. Now remember, you got 4 screws and the screw on the bottom. Now you have to wiggle it out, and then as you see, this is the part that holds the drum. It has 2 wheels. Make sure those wheels are fine. And then you're gonna go ahead and remove the drum. Right now I'm gonna go ahead and stick my hand in there to remove the drum, but at the end of the video I'm gonna show you how to remove the belt that holds the drum in place. At the end of the video I show you how to remove the belt, and how to install the belt. So just stay and watch the whole video. That way you know for sure how to do this repair. Right now what I'm doing, I'm testing the heat element. I set my tester to check continuity. I didn't have any continuity on the heat element, which this is an indication that we need a new heat element. For better testing, go ahead and remove one lead, and then go ahead and check ground. Go ahead and put your one lead on the heat element and one terminal, and the other lead in the other one, to make sure you got continuity. But we don't have any continuity. We already know we need a new heat element. Now I demonstrate you how to check those thermostats. If your heat element tests okay, go ahead and replace the thermostats if they are not giving you continuity. Just remember to remove one terminal to be able to do a more accurate test. If you need one of these testers with a tone like mine, I'm gonna go ahead and put a link on the description of this video. That way you can get the tester to be able to check these things. I believe it's about $24. It's a link on the description of this video. It's a link on the description of this video for the parts thermostats, because Samsung sells the whole housing with the heat element and with the thermostats, or you can buy them individually. But as you can see, it's a little bit of work to be able to replace this. Now we have this tab that they bend to be able to keep this area in place, so you have to strain it out to remove the top of this housing. If you want to go ahead and see more details on this video, go ahead and put this video on lower speed and your phone settings. That way you'll see it with more details. Later on the video, after the heat element is replaced, I'm gonna go ahead and show you how to test it and how it should be testing when everything it should be working fine. Now if everything tests okay, that means you need a new main control board. But in this case, the heat element is not giving us any continuity. Now what I'm doing right now is removing the terminals from the housing, and it has like a little tabs there that prevents those terminals from being pushed in to the housing. As you see now, I'm able to remove them because I strained those tabs, and then I was able to remove those wires from the housing. Now this is the heat element. This is our part, and it's broken. So now we're gonna go ahead and put our new heat element. This is a new heat element. And just make sure you adjust these wires. Make sure they're not touching the metal, the housing, because it's gonna make a shortage and it's gonna trip the breaker, or it's gonna burn out the fuses or the heat element. Samsung sells this part with the whole housing and everything because it's very difficult to do this repair. As you can see, I'm kind of struggling to get it done because we are limited space. And then like, see, this housing is stretched out when you remove the up top of the housing. So now I'm squeezing it in to be able to align the new heat element. So just go ahead and when you put those terminals right there, bend those little tips. If you start doing this repair, if you don't see it good in the camera, when you start doing it, you will see what I am talking about, and just follow the video. With this video and everything that I'm explaining to you, you'll be able to do this repair. But like I said, you have to be very careful. As you see, I align the new heat element with the housing, make sure those holes for the screws are lining up. Like I said, if you have to squeeze the bottom piece, which is the housing, to align those holes for the screws, go ahead and do what you gotta do. Also make sure the wire for the heat element is not touching any part of the metal in the housing. I'm gonna keep repeating this because it's very important. As you see, everything is lining up. Now we have the top piece of the housing as well. Just try to clean much as you can while you do this repair as well. And I squeezed that one in too. Sometimes you have to do it a couple times until you get it right. Try to align everything together. Make sure those screws are lining up with the heat element and the top part of the housing and the bottom part of the housing. Once it's lining up, go ahead and put one screw, but don't go ahead and tighten it because it's going to move everything inside, so everything is going to go off place. So as you go ahead and start, put in the screw, but don't tighten it all the way in. Put 2 screws, 3 screws, and then go ahead and put 2 screws on one side, 2 screws in the other one, which are the ones that holds the heat element in place. After you get the 4 screws that holds the heat element in place, as you see with one of my fingers, I'm go ahead and squeezing it in to align up the heat element and the 2 pieces of the housing. Once you get those 4 screws in place, go ahead and install the rest of the screws. If you want to go ahead and replace the whole housing, go ahead and remove those 3 screws, and that way you remove the whole housing in case you want to go ahead and order the whole housing for this repair. Remember, the link is going to be on the description of this video if you want to go ahead and replace the whole housing or the thermostats or the heat element itself. Just finish putting all the screws that holds those thermostats in place. You can remove the whole thermostat. It has a 1 screw on the top, 1 on the bottom, but I find myself doing it this way easier than removing the whole thing. See, this is the way it should be when you start testing. I got my tester set in continuity and it's beeping. If you need one of these testers, remember, it's a link of the description of this video. It's a very simple test. The only thing you need is a tester that checks for continuity to check this thermostats and heat element. That tester will help you to check a low voltage, high voltage as well. As you see, I'm getting continuity in all these thermostats. I'm just doing this as a demonstration how to do it. But remember, my suggestion is remove the terminals from the thermostats and the heat element to have a better accurate reading. This is the tester that I sell online. As you see, it has a buzzer, so it will beep when you go ahead and start testing this part. First thing you gotta check is your heat element. Disconnect one lead, disconnect one lead from each one, and check for continuity. If it doesn't give you continuity, or if it beeps because you have a multimeter with tone, that means it's your heat element, which we already have replaced on this. Now, if it does give you continuity and it's still not heating, you're gonna test. This is the high limit thermostat. most likely this one is always going to be good. And this is the cutoff thermostat. This cutoff works if it's overheating, or is something wrong with it, or is something wrong with a dryer vent, the vent that goes from here towards outside of the house. This is not going to give you any tone, any beep, so this part is bad. So when you replace this, you have to replace this, because this is the one that controls the temperature between 260 and 50 degrees. If this is not doing a good job, this one is going to go out. Another thing that you have to check is to see if this heat element is not touching ground and it's always on. So you're going to put one lead here and the other lead here. If you got continuity, that means this heat element is touching the metal inside somewhere and it's creating a shortage. You're going to put in the other lead and you're going to test it here. If you don't have a beep or continuity or ohms, that means this heat element is not touching the metal inside. So again, remove one lead from each one and test it each one. If this all three checked okay, you have a different issue. Our issue today was the heat element. We already have replaced it, but it could be the heat element or the cutoff thermostat. This one always, most of the time, will give us continuity, because even if it has problems, it can still work intermittently. So remember, check this one, and this one. If you have to replace this one because it didn't give you any continuity or ohms or beep, then you have to replace this too. However, I'm going to put a link on the description of this video to replace the whole housing, which it brings the heat element, the high limit thermostat, and the cutoff thermostat, or the parts if you want to buy them individually and just replace what was wrong with it. Go in too easy, that means they open when you remove them. So just try to clamp it, don't go over tying it, because then it's going to be hard to get it in place. Make sure it's tight in place, and that should do the job. Here is a demonstration in how to remove the belt, which I told you at the beginning of the video that I was going to show you. You have to do one hand, and then this is the demonstration in how to put it back on. Again, this is a little bit of complication here because you have to do it with one hand. If you are not handy enough, go ahead and call a professional to be able to do this repair for you. Sometimes the little spring right there will come off, but over here in this video you can see how it goes, and just remove the drum again and put it back in place. Remember, the belt has two sides. One is flat, the other one has a grip. It has like a little lines. Those little lines goes in the motor. The flat part goes on the pulley, which is the white wheel right there. And like I said, if you follow this video correctly, you will be able to do this repair yourself and save a lot of money. Now, if this video helped you in any kind of way, we have different ways that you can leave a tip for us if you are happy with this video, or this video help you to resolve any of your issues. Remember to align this belt around the drum, because otherwise it can slip on the pulley white wheel. See, I keep putting it in place because the belt have to align with the mark that it's on the drum, the brown mark that you see right there on the drum when I'm spinning. At this point, we're pretty much done. We're gonna go ahead and start putting everything back together. Remember, those wheels hold the front part of the drum, so you go ahead and make sure you put those wheels on the drum, and then go ahead and align the this part of the panel the way you see on the video. It has like a little bracket, so when you put it where it goes, it just stays in place, and you will be able to install those screws. Go ahead and plug in your harness for the humidity sensor. That's the why I didn't got that on the video really good, but you will see what I'm talking about once you start doing that repair. I also have a similar videos for this model. There are Samsung. All Samsungs are very similar, so it's something that I did in this video. You don't see it good because my camera moves. Then go ahead and check my other videos and watch the video a couple times until you feel confidence to do this repair. As you see me doing right now, I'm installing the 4 screws that holds the panel and also the screws that goes on the bottom. Now we're gonna go ahead and install this metal piece. This is what go ahead and basically holds the whole cabinet in place. So it's very important you put the screws correctly on this piece, align it. It has a male to female tab. So in this model, for some reason, I have a bit of a hard time trying to align it in place. But most of the time it's very easy because, like I said, it has a male to female tab on the top of the panel and all on the front. So you'll probably have a better luck than I did on this piece right here. And if it's giving you an issue and it doesn't want to stay in place, go ahead and do one side first. Go ahead and install one of the screws on one side, like I'm doing it there, because I gave up. I just want to put it in place where it goes, and it didn't work for me. So I put one side and then I did the other one, and that did it for me. This took me a bit of a time, so I'm speeding up the video to be able to get it done quicker, but also right. Right now I'm making sure all the wires are where they should be, and make sure they are aligned the way it's supposed to. See, those are the wiring for the top front panel. Now what we're doing, we're installing the front panel, and this is the harness for the light switch and the door switch. Again, make sure you hold it in place every time you're going to disconnect it and connect it back, because that little piece flies away, it breaks, and you're going to end up replacing that piece as well. Another advice, this machine has a lot of sharp edges, so when you do this repair, go ahead and use some long gloves, or go ahead and use like a long sleeve shirt. That way you prevent yourself from cutting your arms or your hand while you do this repair. Remember, everything that you do, just try to be careful. Go ahead and install those screws on the front. Remember, disconnect the dryer or any appliance that you're going to work on before you start working on it. Those are the tops that I was telling you about. Make sure those align together. Plug in your harness for your controls, which is 2 harness. Make sure they clip in place. Align the tabs and go ahead and just sit that piece in place where it goes. Now go ahead and plug it in. You can go ahead and plug it in after you finish everything, but right now I don't have the top part. I just want to test to make sure it's heating to be able to put the top panel. And as you can see, it's heating. Everything is working fine. Now what I'm going to do is disconnect it again, put the top piece, and we can say that and we are done. At the beginning of the video, I didn't record how I removed the 2 screws on this panel, but this is the way you do it. Just make sure you align it in place because it got his way to it. Got like a male to female on the front where it goes, and the 2 screws on the back. If you remove these 2 screws and it's not coming off, just hit it like pushing it back and it will come right off. It will slide back. That's it for this video. I hope this video helped you in some kind of way. If this video helped you in any way, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for future videos. Thanks for watching.